Let's Talk Tunnelling is produced by XRJV and proudly sponsored by DC Adams Group. Why safety matters.
But what about for your son? Like as a father, do you you can always be biased and all that sort of stuff, but how do you deal with your son being in the industry, knowing full well what it's like, what the people are like? How do you deal with that?
Yeah, to be quite honest, I'm as proud as Punch because, I know he's well respected and well liked in the industry, not because he tells me, he doesn't tell me jack shit, but superintendents ring me and say, oh, what's he up to? You reckon he'd like to come over onto this project or that project? And I'd say, ring him. Don't ring me. I can't help you. He's set in Sydney. He's got his joint here and that. So, but even these days, I have superintendents. As soon as there's a new job, oh, you reckon you'd want to come across onto this one? Ring him, and find out because he does his job well. As I said to you, talking about Airport Link in Brisbane, first thing Jim, the superintendent, said to me when I stuck my head in, and he says, "Where's Danny?" And I said, "Danny who? Who are you talking about?" "Yes, son. I only gave you a job so that we get the kid along as well." Yeah. And I said, "Jesus Christ, that's great." He was only joking. Yeah. I was actually talking to him on LinkedIn just the other day. That guy is over in Malaysia at the moment.
Yeah.
But no, he's got a long career ahead of him if he keeps doing the right thing the way he is. And as I say, he came up right from the bottom, and now he's into everything. So
yeah. Do you think? Did you always want your son to be a tunneler though, or come into tunnelling? What was your first thoughts? Did he ring you up and say, "Hey, Dad, what's the chances of getting a job in the tunnels?" How do you react to that, or how was your reaction?
No, he didn't. He was terrible at school, and he didn't like it either. So it was a bit of both things there, and so he was ready to leave school. And from what I hear, he was interested in going into the army or something, and I said, no, get a bit better results and join the Navy, learn to fly a helicopter so then you can fly me around in helicopters. But no, he wasn't into that. And his mother was really dead set against him joining the army where he could get shot at. So then the next best thing was see if he could get a role as in a tunnel, and I said, well, you might have to wait a while until the next project because they're all full on this one. But
I love how you said that, Fred. The next best thing. I reckon that's brilliant, mate.
So anyway, word spread around that they did need a couple of labourers at Chatswood on the Epping to Chatswood rail tunnel, and so I went and saw the superintendent. I said, look, doesn't have to be, and but the son wants to get a gig on there if possible. And I said I was over way up the other end of the line, so had nothing to do with me. And so they gave him the interview, gave him a start, and he took it from there. I just said to him, look, you might get the interview because you got my name, but I said, if you don't put in, you won't keep the job. Doesn't matter who you are, they'll give you the punt. I said, so you might get the start, but after that, it's up to you whether you keep it or not.
Yeah, good.
And 10 or 12 years later, he's still there going strong.
Good on him. Yeah.
Okay, so
where did we get up to? You had.
Left Kellyville and went to North Connects, the road tunnel out at North Connects, and Wilson Road site. Yep. 90 metre deep shaft. That's a bloody deep shaft.
Yeah,
very deep. And I was there till they launched the road header, till they lowered it down the shaft with the big gantry crane, and then I left there, and as we all know, that's the one where Jim, your dad, was killed, and he was on my crew on the surface, and I think I said earlier in the program what a humble man he was. You know, he had so much experience. He had a lot more experience than myself, especially in air legging and all the manual type tunneling.
Yeah.
But no, I'll paint that, Fred, or I'll do that. You go and do whatever you got to do. I'll do this. You're right. You piss off. Go and do what you got to do.
Yeah.
And you know, such an experienced man, and so humble. But yeah, so I was only there a short while. I wasn't one of my favourite jobs, just to put it that way. If you haven't got something nice to say, we won't say it.
Yeah, yeah.
It's the only job in my entire working life that I've actually resigned.
Yeah.
And so I left there, and it's a very small world, this tunnelling world, because I'd hardly got home when the phone started ringing with a couple of managers from different jobs had heard that Fred had snatched it, and wanting me to consider coming to their operations, and that made me feel a hell of a lot better, made me feel really good. So yeah, best move I ever made, because I took up a young guy, Paul. He was the manager, and Mel, who was the superintendent, and I'd never met Mel, but I knew Paul from when he was a young engineer, and Mel was happy enough to take a chance on me on Paul's say-so, and so yeah, ended up to be a fantastic job at Bexley down in on the new M5 tunnel.
Yeah.
And, was there right till almost the end, and I was there till the very end of excavation, put it that way, and terrific job.
So what was involved in that job, in that the Bexley one? Because that was a continuation, wasn't it, or stage 2 of the M5? Is that correct?
That's correct. It was part of the M5, the new M5 tunnel they called it. And there was 2 spoil sheds, one at the south and one at the north of the off ramp that went down onto the M5 road. And the spoil shed at the south side is going to stay there full time. It's being modified to be the permanent ventilation for the shaft. And the one at the north, when they're completely finished with it, it'll just be demolished and the shaft backfilled, and I don't know what they'll do with the land there, turn it into parking or a park or something, I'm not sure. But that was a great job. Terrific people to work with. Four road headers pumping spoil out to the 2 sheds, and we could operate the spoil trucks out of the south shed 24 hours a day if we wanted to, but that wasn't really feasible. But the one at the north, you could only operate after 7 a.m. Till I think it was about 9 p.m. or something was the cutoff. But once again, you had the criteria that if those spoil sheds got full of spoil, then the tunnel had to stop, or else they had to start stockpiling spoil underground, which was an expensive exercise because it meant double handling and making a mess down there, turning to mud and shit. So the criteria was you never wanted to let those spoil sheds fill up, and we pumped out a lot of dirt out of there in very quick time, so it was excellent.
Yeah. Well, your time is based around site setup, especially the later jobs that you talk about. Is that your specialty, do you believe, or?
Possibly more so, especially as I've got older. I've had a hip replaced and shoulder replaced, so I don't really like stumbling around over the rocks and shit down the bottom, but
yeah,
I can do it if the superintendent needs me to. But if there's a roll up on the surface, looking after spoil and delivering gear to the tunnel, consumables, etc., then I'll do whatever the super needs. But I'm more comfortable dealing with spoil trucks, trucking dogs and loaders, etc., and all that type of thing. So, especially in that Bexley job, had a great subcontractor there who really put in above and beyond. He was very cooperative. If I needed trucks to come in early 1, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning and start at the south shed. Yep, the owner himself and a couple of his mates out of the office would be in there first up, do a couple of rounds with the Truckin dogs while they wait for their normal drivers to start. And I've just never seen that before in a company where the owner himself is in a truck carting the spoil out. So people thought I was nuts because I used to like starting at about 2 o'clock in the morning down there at the south shed, and Mel the super said to me, "What are you doing? You don't have to do that." And I said, "No, I just like it because there's less traffic, there's no people, there's no one around. We can just smash it out, and the trucks have easy travelling times because there's no traffic. So we get more done in that window between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. than we do for the rest of the day."
Yeah.
So, but he was a good super. He'd tell me to piss off home early. I always went early. People would be, looking, "What are you doing?" I'm packing up my bag and going at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and everyone else is just getting settled to do a bit of work. And I know it was a terrific
Beer
job.
o'clock.
So both the manager and the superintendent gave me a lot of leeway there to run those spoil sheds the way I saw fit, and it worked well. We didn't have any problems. We didn't stop the production.
I suppose when you think of things like that too, Fred, and you get someone like yourself on, and it goes both ways. They let you do what you're good at, which is why I asked you about your specialty in that, and something that you're passionate and love about. Like you said, your normal hours were probably 6 till 6 or whatever it was, or 6 till 4. But you saw fit, or you saw that to add value to this, or to get the best out of this, is to come in at 2, isn't it?
Yep.
And to have that window there, like you talked about, and you saw that in yourself. You weren't really told that, really, or did you just go, "Hang on"?
No, nobody. In fact, they probably didn't really like me starting so early because they were worried about fatigue management and what do they call it, life balance or something, but to me,
you knew you were retiring, so your life was going to change in a job or two.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't have to put up with it for long.
In the back of your head, you were saying the whole time, "Don't you worry, I'm going to get a lot of life balance out of this." Because I know that was in the back of Dad's head, that's for sure.
Yeah, so no one ever told me I had to start at 2 o'clock in the morning, not at all. I just did that partly because, as I explained earlier, it was good. There was no one around. It was quiet. The excavator operators, they were there 24/7 on their shift rotation, so it didn't matter to them. And all the spoil was loaded out with excavators on the south shed. The truck would come in, do a loop around the shaft, and the excavator sitting up above him 3 or 4 metres in the air and just drops the load in and away he goes, and just gives him the tonnage because those machines all had what they call load right on them, so that every bucket of spoil was weighed, so that nowadays it's critical because of the chain of responsibility that we don't overload the trucks at all, not by 100 kilo even, It's become that critical. And so no, they'd all get weighed, every bucket full got weighed, and so you knew exactly how many tonne were going out each truck.
Yeah.
And I should pay a bit of credit to my loader driver up in the north shed. That poor bastard, I hounded him so hard when he first started because he was, unfairly, I was just comparing him in the back of my mind to the loader operators I had up at Airport Link in Brisbane, and he was taking 8, 9, 10 minutes to load a Truckin dog, and I was hounding him. I said, "You've got to get it down under 3 minutes. You can't, otherwise you can't stay. We can't cope with it. We won't keep up." And I kept hounding him that much, and eventually he was smashing them out in 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes maximum in a Truckin dog, and he just was sensational. He did such a great job and put up with so much shit from me.
Can you share with us what you said or what you did to be able to do that, Fred? Is that possible?
I just kept at him because bear in mind, same thing. He had to weigh every bucket full of spoil that went into those Truckin dogs, and whenever there wasn't a truck or dog in the shed, I'd hound him to be practicing. Go and practice. Pretend there's a truck there and you're loading it. Just go to the stockpile and just keep pretending, keep practicing and training. And
so almost like a simulation, like just simulating if there was a truck there and trying to find.
Yeah, exactly. You've got to weigh your bucketfuls. Yeah, weigh your bucketfuls till you've got your 11 or 11.5 ton for the body of the truck and whatever you need for the dog. And I say dog, that's the trailer of the truck, and I said just keep practicing. And that man got brilliant. One day there was no one to give him a break for his smoko or anything and his lunch, and he knew there wasn't anyone going to be there that day. And he did 99 Truckin dogs on his own in the one day, and he was livid. He was spewing. He'd set himself a target. He wanted to reach 100. Now, that is a astronomical figure when you consider every bucket full had to be weighed, a little bit shaken off or a little bit extra picked up to get the exact tonnage in the truck and the dog. And so he saved our bacon on that job, and the superintendent and I, we had some blues in the early days over him being there because I didn't want him. I wanted him gone, and but he came to the party and he smashed it in the end.
Livid.
And he was brilliant, really good. He made me eat my words well and truly, because
that's probably what motivated him, mate, and shutting you up.
Oh, it would have been 100%, 100%. And I don't mind whatever motivates the guy, whether it's got me as a target on the side of the truck. That's fine, but he did the job and he did it brilliantly. So hats off to him,
Yeah.
And he knows who he is. So well done, Dale.
Good one.
Terrific job, fantastic. As I say, 99.9% of the jobs I've done, I've had an absolute ball at them. I've loved every minute of it. And I've loved the argy-bargy and the push and shove that's involved, because every guy, he's got his own little team, his own little part of the project that he's trying to make successful. And I think that's a sign of a good supervisor, foreman, that they're worried about their little part of the project. And, bugger you, Fred, I've got to do this. And I'll say, well, stuff you, I've got to do this. And eventually we make it happen and it all gels together nicely.
Yeah, well, here's a question for you, because, this is what I'm trying to ask people as well, and I'll ask you as well. What makes a good tunneler, do you think? You would have had, as a manager and a supervisor, that you would have had, or you've even taken guys that you've noticed have the goods. So what makes a good tunneler in your eyes, Fred? What do you look for?
They've got to have that work ethic and not be, if one day they've got to do a few minutes extra, not whinge and moan. Just know that what goes around comes around. I'm a great believer in that. It's, you have your quiet days and your really busy days. And if a truck comes in and needs unloading and it's lunchtime, I need someone that'll just put their hand up, jump up and go and unload it. When I say unload it, it'll come in with tunnel consumables like, pipes or cables or hoses or something. Rip it off with the forklift, unload it, go back, have a bit extra for lunch, knock off a little bit early that afternoon. But people are well within their rights to say, no, you can wait there for an hour until I've had my lunch. But that then just blocks the whole process up on the surface. You end up with 2 or 3 more trucks turn up behind him, and then there's trucks turn up to be loaded with spoil, and it just becomes an absolute shit fight. So I need people that will do that a little bit extra without having to be asked. They know that, okay, that's got to be done, and they just hop in and do it,
Because I suppose if they do wait too, Fred, and sort of say to you, no, they'll just wait till I finish my smoke or I'll finish this cup of tea. I suppose in the back of your mind, you'll be thinking, well, you'll be waiting on the couch on the next job for a phone call.
Yeah, well, that's a little bit right. I know we can't think that way, but you can only judge people by how they perform, and those guys that put in the extra effort and the extra yards, of course you're going to pick them up first if you can on the next job, and that's only natural. And like I say, my example, for example, I with my own bat, I started at 2:00 when all the excavation was in full swing. The superintendent, he just looked at me one day. He says, "What are you still doing here? Piss off, get home." Goes around. What goes around comes around, and that's the way I like to live my life.
Yeah, great. Well, Fred, where are we up to? Because you must be getting bloody time to retire soon, surely.
Yeah, well, that was West Connects at M5 at Bexley. Then, last Sydney job was the Sydney Metro. Yep, Sydney Metro. I was out at the what they call their storage yard at Camellia. I'd had a manager and a superintendent who I knew from many years ago over numerous tunnels there, Jeremy and Marty. They had approached me months earlier to come on board and organise and look after that. And I explained that no, I couldn't. I had a commitment to Bexley because the manager there and the super, they'd picked me up the moment I got laid off, or the moment I finished up at that previous job. And so I had out of just my own sense of honour, I had to finish my role there. And I said, "So sorry, I can't take it up." And they said, "Oh, that's all right. We'll hold it for you until you can." I was blown away by that. Wow. And I was absolutely blown away. And,
like you said, Fred, what goes around comes around, mate. There you go.
Yep. Absolutely stoked. And so that was another great little job out at Camellia, just organising. They had a big lay-down yard there with a heap of old crap from other jobs. And Marty had some stuff there had to be 30 years old. It was 30 or 40 years old from previous these jobs. And we went for a walk around, and he's telling me about all this stuff that's going to come in, all the new gear for Sydney Metro. And I'm looking at him, well, where the hell do we put it? And he says, you just be ruthless. You cull it, just get rid of it in steel bins. And so we had the Boilermakers cutting up a lot of old crap that was never going to be used again. Could have gone into a tunnelling antiques museum, I guess, but they went to a better home. All the money went to Bear Cottage, the children's charity. So I was very pleased about that. So, yeah, we cleared out a lot of rubbish there, organised the yard, and all the new plant that was coming in for Sydney Metro was put there and stored in some semblance of order. And a lot of the gear that was coming back that had become redundant on the sites would come back to that yard and be stored there. So, yeah, terrific job, and some great workers there. I was sad to see it all, to finish up there, but the aches and pains started to take over, so I had to call it quits.
Wow!
But some great memories, some great jobs, and terrific.
Yeah.
Marty and Jeremy put on a bloody big feast for me when I left, and it was beautiful.
Well, that's another question I wanted to ask you, and because you've done so many now, what job or project, or we could even say tunnel, really stands out for you over the ones that you've done?
As I said earlier, it was toss up between two or three of them, but maybe just favouring the North Side Storage Tunnel in Sydney, the sewer overflow tunnel, simply because it was my role was fairly comprehensive in that one, looking after the tugs and barges taking the spoil away, the tugs and barges bringing the gear into the tunnel.
That's right, yeah.
All the spoil from the caverns, the loader operators in the caverns storing the spoil. So, I had a pretty comprehensive role on that one. So, and to see it right from the very beginning, to see it operating at the end the way it was meant to and designed to, probably just tipped it over the edge as the number one, but
yeah,
Bexley would have been a close second. I had an absolute ball at Bexley. It was a great job.
And what do you reckon makes, well, like you said, with the North Side Storage Tunnel, and then Bexley being second, what makes it special? Like, I know you were there at North Side Storage Tunnel right from the start to the end, and everything that was involved, like you said, it gelled, everything worked well, everything was planned well, industrial role that you had in it. And then you went to Bexley and you talked about some great people there. And
well, from my point of view, I guess it's just the way I'm wired, but I need the superintendent and the manager to have faith in me and trust me, so that they tell me what they want done and leave me to do it, and with the people at my disposal. And I had great camaraderie there with the managers, the manager and the superintendent. They were terrific. And even after Paul left and went over to Singapore, the guys that came along behind him, fantastic. They were really good people. You know, they knew how to manage people and get the best out of them. And they gave me a lot of support, and that's what I need to function well. I need people to have faith in me and have trust that I can do the job, you know. And initially I don't expect it, but once they've seen that they can rely on me and trust me, then they just go away and leave me to it, and I love that. Yeah. Same with Airport Link in Brisbane. That was another great job. The super there, he'd tell you once, right, this is what's happening, this is what I need to do, and away he'd go. Yeah. He just used to roam around supervising and watching what was going on. He knew what was happening everywhere, and he was great. Yeah. Got a lot of time for people like that. They don't try and micromanage the job. They have their foremen and supervisors there, and they delegate the jobs to them and let them do it. You know?
Brilliant.
If you're not performing, step in and take over for sure. You know? That's why you never see me climb on a loader or an excavator. I have people that know what they're doing to do that. You know.
Yeah.
I tell them what's needed, and then it's up to them to do it.
Yeah.
So no, that was the one I retired on from Camellia Plant Yard, and sad to see it finish, because, as I say, I've made some great friends and acquaintances in the industry, and some of the guys that I've trained and mentored along the road are still in the industry, quite a few actually. And Grant, a senior manager from tunnelling from another company, when he heard I was retiring, he said to me, he says, well, there's many, many people in this industry that you've got started will be thankful that they crossed paths with you, and that meant a lot to me. I was honoured to hear that. So, yeah.
Well, I believe that too, Fred, and you know that's the reason why I wanted to definitely get you on to this show here, is because of your amazing, contribution to the tunnelling. Like I'm really passionate about trying to make tunnelling into as the great thing that I believe it is.
Yeah.
To get people like yourself on to share your experiences and your knowledge, so this generation can hear it from you. And I'm exactly, I think what Grant said to you is dead on. And I know people were saying that about my father as well.
Exactly.
And that's right, mate. I hope it does make you feel good, because like I said, you have done a great job. And that's why, I'm really happy that you agreed to come on. And what you've shared with us is mind-blowing, to be honest.
Yeah, very satisfying thing. A few of the guys that did come from Kellyville, from the precast yard, to this day and age, they're still working in the tunnelling, and I'm very happy about that. There's a couple of them on the 3A project, I think it is. They're just shotcreters, roadheader operators. They're doing everything, and they started off just as complete greenhorns, but they've taken the bit between their teeth and run with it, and now they'll just get picked up from job to job now, and they're laughing. They've got their future set.
Well, mate, you know what I'm going to ask you now? Because, these new guys that you've created a life for in tunnelling, they've probably just started, and here you are now finished. So
yep.
What's that like? Because,
to be honest,
like, if they could listen to someone that's done their time, succeeded in it, well, then they can aspire to be like you. So what's it like to be a retired tunneler, mate? What's it like? Get up in the morning, and then what do you do? Like,
to be quite honest, the last few months I've been just bumming around Vietnam, eating local food, living in very cheap hotels, and the missus wasn't too impressed with some of the cheap hotels that I stayed in, but they were always in a great local food spot, and so she soon forgave me for that, and only had 2 criteria. You could always get cheaper ones, but we lived in generally $10 to $12 a night places, and had 2 criteria. That had to have a elevator and air conditioning so I could sleep at night, and the elevator so you're not carting your suitcases up 4 or 5 flights of stairs. And having a ball, absolute ball. I love Vietnam. I love the people, love the food, the culture. Just great. Really friendly people, the majority of them. And and now that I'm back home in this midst of this coronavirus, it's time to knuckle down and do a bit more gardening and get the place sorted again. So,
brilliant, Fred.
But only advice: look after your super, put what extra you can in it, and get out once you can, while your body's still fit enough to be able to enjoy it.
Yeah, good on you. Well, mate, it has been an absolute pleasure to have you on. I'm so grateful. Good to see that you're fit and healthy, and you're looking as good as ever, mate, with your flash haircut there. So does it mean that you'll never come back into tunneling? Like, you're retired and that's finished, or if it is?
Probably. I'd say the joints just aren't the best anymore. They're not the best what they used to be. So, but no, it's fantastic industry, as I said earlier numerous times. I wish I'd have got into it much earlier, but I've had an absolute ball and met fantastic people along the road. Much as it hurts to say, nearly all of them have been Kiwis. Kiwis and Irish. No, absolute blast. I've had an absolute ball, and
well, on behalf of
he's been a couple of times, and the guys just say, "Oh, look, go around to this address. Look up my parents. I'll give you a feed, and we'll go around to this address. Look up my mum. She'll give you a feed." And Jesus Christ, they don't know me from Adam, but
that's what it's
great
like.
People, really, really great people in this tunnelling industry. And as I say, I've had a ball, and if ever anyone wants to chat about some aspect of it, they're welcome. But
like I said, once I found out you were retired and you had some time, I was straight on to you. So, like I said, thank you very much. I'm going to, on behalf of myself, my family, Dad, Let's Talk Tunnelling, but the tunnelling community, mate, I just want to thank you. Thank you for your 30 years in the industry. Thank you for the people you brought into tunnelling, your mentoring and your coaching and your management skills and everything about you, mate. So I wish you all the best. I know that you've got a long stint ahead of you and you're going to enjoy your time. So thank you and appreciate you coming on this show.
No worries, mate. It's been a blast. It's been a pleasure. I wish I could have been down there and shared a beer with you. But
there's always another time. I'll come up your way.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
good on you, Fred. Well, mate, stay there. I'm going to sign us off. So, well, unbelievable. So we're gonna get this sorted so you can listen to Fred. So I just want to say that's another episode of Let's Talk Tunneling. Fred's, he's shared with us some amazing projects. So thanks very much. That's another episode of Let's Talk Tunneling. Please tune in. Sign on to subscribe to Let's Talk Tunneling YouTube. It's on SoundCloud as well. And thanks for supporting Let's Talk Tunneling. Thank you.